It's official. Draft season is upon us. AJ and I are going to play a little bit of this or that and trust, marry, kill next on The Flex.
You are now listening to The Flex on the Fantasy Holics Podcast Network. Subscribe now and tune in every week for all the advice you need to win your fantasy football league. And now, your hosts, Josh Rodriguez and AJ Kelly.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to The Flex, presented by Fantasy Holics, your new go-to podcast for redraft leagues. Draft season is here. Like I said in the intro, AJ and I will be going over draft hypotheticals and play a little bit of Trust, Marry, Kill. But first, follow Fantasy Holics on Facebook. Just type in Fantasy Holics. Earlier before, me and Great White Buffalo did a live redraft fantasy mock draft. Check that out. We'll be doing more of those. We just go through a whole draft. We mock it with 10 other people. We discuss our picks, other people's picks, make fun of each other. It's a good time. If you're not watching that, you should be. Also follow us on Twitter at FantasyHolics1 and Instagram and TikTok at FantasyHolics Podcast. Be sure to tune in to the Fat Boys Dynasty Podcast for all your dynasty needs. And Seth Berger hosts DWF, which stands for Defense Wins Fantasy. That is an IDP League podcast. More podcasts to come on the way. And if you are interested in joining our network, please reach out to us at fantasyholicspodcast@gmail.com. If you're listening on Spotify and Apple, give us 5 stars, leave a review, say nothing but good things because you know you love us. I am here with AJ Kelly. AJ, one day closer to the start of the season. We're almost in September. That's crazy. August flew by. Absolutely flew by.
August went so fast because I spent the entire month doing mock drafts. So I'm convinced that that's just why it went so fast, because I was just doing mock drafts every single day. It was like, psych, now it's the season.
It is officially draft season. Now, I don't like drafting, before the preseason's over, but some drafts do. I mean, that's just the reality situation. People have things to do, and some people draft towards the end of the preseason. I'm not a fan of it, but I've been a part of that, so I understand that some of you might be in the same position. So we're here for you. We are here for you. AJ and I are going to give you some this or that type of gameplay where AJ is going to give me 2 options and I'm going to have to choose one. I'm going to give AJ 2 options. He's going to have to choose one. These are draft hypotheticals. These can actually happen in your draft as well. Let's get started. AJ, I'll kick it to you, man. Give me my first this or that.
All right. I'll give you the first one here. So what we're doing, we're going to start off in the 3rd round because everyone's got their list, 1st or 2nd round guys, where you're happy with anyone you're coming out of there. So, sometimes they say in the NFL draft, the first 4 picks, they say, oh, the draft starts at 5. Fantasy, sometimes the draft starts in the 3rd round. So we're going to jump right to the 3rd round here. So I'm coming to you. You went running back, wide receiver, 1-2 in this hypothetical. You're sitting there on the clock in round 3. You want to take a running back, Ezekiel Elliott or James Conner?
I'm going James Conner. I'm really high on James Conner this year. Totally. He sold me last year on his performance. I think he's going to be better this year. I think they're going to run the football a little more this year. I know Kyler Murray likes to run and scramble, and he might have a few rushing touchdowns or 2, but I still think Conner's going to be involved in the passing game, especially with DeAndre Hopkins out in the beginning. I really fully expect Conner to be an RB1 this year. I think it's a steal to get him in the 3rd round, if I'm being completely honest with you. I'm going Conner all the way. And this is not a knock on Zeke. I like Zeke too. I think a lot of people are underrating Zeke and taking him for granted. Obviously, Tony Pollard's there in the back. I don't think he's going to dig too much into Zeke's workload. I think you're going to see a lot of Tony Pollard in the slot as well. So Zeke and Tony Pollard on the field at the same time. I think they're both good options, but I'm going with Conner. What about you, man? I'm actually curious what you think.
I would take Zeke. I think those guys are in the same area when we did our RB rankings where you're going to have them. But those were 3 that I was picking out, or two guys that I was picking out in really for 3 spots I'm going through. But as we get closer to the season, you look at the Cardinals offense more and more, and it's like, okay, what's that offense going to look like for the first 6 games of the year without DeAndre? I expect touchdown regression from Conner. I don't expect him to score 15 touchdowns on the ground again this year. And Zeke, quietly last year, we talked about it throughout all of our podcasts, it seems so far, over 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, RB7 on the year. This is a guy you're getting in round 3 that was a perennial 1st round pick for the last few years, and now he's considered to have such a down year last year. Oh my God, he was so bad. He was the RB7. That's not bad at all. So if I can take him in round 3 in this situation, I would jump at that.
All right, so we disagree there. Let's move on to the next this or that. AJ, I propose this to you. You went running back in the first 2 rounds. We're now in the 3rd round. You need a wide receiver, and it's between Deontay Johnson or DK Metcalf. Who you taking?
Oh God, this is one I really just wouldn't Neither of these guys are high on.
I'm giving you dirt and dirt.
Neither of
I'm
these
not giving
guys
you a good option
are
here.
high on my draft board as what I would be looking to do. But honestly, I think I would go Deontay. And I mean, both of these teams have quarterback questions through that. But is it going to be Geno Smith or Drew Lock in Seattle, and is it going to be Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky in Pittsburgh? So I go Deontay strictly off of the fact that I expect the Steelers offense to be a little bit of more of a well-oiled machine than the Seattle offense is. I'm not saying that the Steelers are going to be out here as an offensive juggernaut, but I expect their offense to be able to move the ball a little bit better. Tomlin has been all about Mitch Trubisky because, sure, Mitch has the experience, and that was big for Tomlin throughout everything. He was saying, Mitch comes in as the incumbent here because he has the experience. That's what we need. It's hard to start week one as a rookie in this league. So, but I think Pickett's eventually going to take that over, and I think that's going to bode well for Deontay. So, twist my arm here, but it's going to be Deontay Johnson.
I agree with you, actually. We're going to agree on this one. I saw what Drew Lock did to Cortland Sutton and Jerry Judy. I mean, there's injuries involved as well, so I'm not going to sit here and say that it was all Drew Lock. But I saw it, not a fan of it, and don't trust it. I know DK Metcalf is an incredible talent, but I do not trust him to have the football in his hands at all. I think they're going to run the football a lot, whether it's with Penny or Walker. Just don't trust in it. And I like what I see from Kenny Pickett. I think he's going to start too, just like you said. And I think Deontay Johnson is going to be his number one receiver, number one target. I'd rather take him than DK. But, this hypothetical I gave you was kind of unfair, man, because I don't think either one of us would be staring down the barrel of Deontay Johnson or DK. I think we would look elsewhere if these were options.
Sometimes you got to make a move that you might not love, though, when you see it, where you never know how the rest of that's going to shape out. So maybe those are your two best players available, where that's what you're looking at, where that's the draft strategy.
All right, let's move on to the next hypothetical.
All right, my next one is for you, and this is a given because in this situation, you start running back, and anyone that has listened knows that this is how Josh's draft is going to play out. He's going to start running back, and this is exactly what he's going to be looking at. So your wide receiver 1, round 4, Jalen Waddle or Terry McLaurin?
I'm taking Jalen Waddle. I like McLaurin. I think I might like McLaurin better as a player. If I had him on the same team, I'm taking McLaurin. But I just don't trust Carson Wentz. I don't trust the Commanders' offense. They seem like to be a mess over there. No consistency whatsoever. I saw what Waddle did last year in Miami in his role. I think, you can give him a wide receiver screen and he could take it to the house. Like, there's different ways you can implement Waddle with Tua's skill set that I feel very comfortable with. I think he's going to be probably low-end wide receiver 1 is his ceiling, but probably a wide receiver 2, most likely. Very comfortable drafting Waddle. McLaurin, not so much. It has nothing to do with him. It has everything to do with Carson Wentz and the Commanders.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on this one, and I think it is about the offense, where we know Tyreek Hill's in Miami now, obviously, but I think that, that could help and hurt Jalen Waddle at the same time. And he has that rapport with Tua where that's what he spent all last year building, where up over 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns. So Tyreek's going to help that a little bit, take some of the attention off. And McDaniel, he's going to be scheming up all of these plays that are getting these players in space, whether it's Tyreek, whether it's Waddle. He knows what to do with these guys. And exactly like you said, whereas Carson Wentz, or is it going to be Sam Howell at some point in the season? Who knows? He's looked good in the preseason too. Maybe they don't stick with Wentz, the Commanders, whereas that's what they're going to be doing. So I think there's more consistency from Waddle on that one. So I would go with Waddle over Terry McLaurin as well.
All right, let's move on to the next hypothetical. AJ, I propose to you. You started running back, wide receiver. So very solid right there. Are you taking Cortland Sutton as your wide receiver 2? Or are you going to go tight end here with Kyle Pitts?
This one kills me, and I know that it kills me, and I know that this is why you put it on here, but I go Kyle Pitts. I go Kyle Pitts. I love Sutton. Sutton was my wide receiver 15 on my list. He was your wide receiver 10. We're both big on Sutton this year, but if Kyle Pitts drops to the 4th round, I'm jumping at that. Over 1,000 yards. He's going to score more than 1 touchdown this season. I don't know how many times I have to say it on this podcast. He's going to score more than 1 touchdown. 52-yard reception in the preseason against the Jets just this past Monday night in preseason game 2 for him. He's a matchup nightmare. He can line up anywhere at tight end, outside. They can do whatever they want with him, and it kills me to take him over Sutton in the situation, given how much we both know that we like Sutton. But if Pitts is dropping to 4 in that situation, I'm taking Kyle Pitts in the 4th round.
Yeah, this is, kind of undervaluing Pitts a little bit. He's probably going to go third round. Done mocks where he's went, as far as late second. So I might have undersold Pitts here a little bit. I kind of just wanted to see, for the purpose of this question, would you go receiver or tight end here? That was kind of what I was going for with that. Maybe I should have put George Kittle. Actually, I'll place Pitts with Kittle if it's George Kittle and Sutton.
Kittle, I think I would snag Sutton if it
Okay.
was in that situation. But I just think Pitts is really that good. Whereas it's kind of a best player available type thing for me. Where what do I expect more out of? Because I think Pitts is that guy for them. So if it in that situation, I'm not panicking and I'm not grabbing the tight end, but thinking, oh, I need to get this tight end situation locked down here. It's more so about having Kyle Pitts than it is about having the tight end.
All right, so we go on to the next hypothetical. AJ, what you got for me?
All right, my next one is for you. You did something that you're never going to do. Fourth round, you started wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver. So you're there. You need your RB1 in the fourth round, which would be the latest in the history of fantasy football that Josh has ever taken an RB1. But your options right there: Josh Jacobs, Elijah Mitchell.
Why'd you do this to me, AJ?
The hard hitting questions.
Yeah, it is. I'm going Elijah Mitchell. Listen, when he was healthy, he was lead back and he was performing. He was putting up numbers. He was an RB. I mean, he was. You could say he was a low end RB1 when he was healthy, right? I would say last year when he got the touches.
Definitely.
So I'll go him. Listen, I given Josh Jacobs a few years to kind of explode, I guess you could say. He's been a pretty solid fantasy football running back, but at this point in the draft, I'm taking someone with RB1 upside. I think that's Elijah Mitchell. Obviously, there's been like running back roulette there in San Francisco, and Trey Lance, we don't know what he is yet, and a lot of, Mitchell's success is going to have to do with Trey Lance and the offense, but I just think his ceiling's higher, and I do like him. He is someone who you wouldn't have to force me to draft this year. If he's there in the right spot, I will be taking Elijah Mitchell in my draft, so I'm going with Mitchell. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. And I think it's a lot about what's going to be the opportunity. San Francisco is still going to be an offense that wants to run the ball, I think. It makes it easier on Trey Lance, obviously coming out as a first-year starter here. So it's not putting too much pressure on him. And Josh Jacobs, it just seems like everything that Las Vegas is doing is what they're transitioning to, whereas we know Derek Carr has always been the main focus point of that offense through throwing the ball. They didn't rely on Jacobs. They let Carr handle it. And now they add Devontae Adams. They still have Hunter Renfrow. Darren Waller might miss some regular season time, so maybe that boosts Josh Jacobs' stock a little bit if they're going to be running the ball more. But I still think Elijah Mitchell is on this offense here that wants to be more run-centric, and he's the RB1 in that right now. So I would take Mitchell there. I think you said he has the upside.
All right, last this or that. I propose to you, AJ, same thing. You went 0 running backs in the first 3 rounds, 0 running back strategy to start the draft. Something I don't really see you doing. You're best player available, which I think you would pick a running back at some point, but just hypothetically, 3 wide receivers. You're getting a running back in the 4th round, and it's between J.K. Dobbins or Breece Hall. Who are you taking?
This one is actually fairly easy for me. It might be surprising, but I'm taking J.K. Dobbins. Breece Hall was on our overvalued list way long ago, beginning of July on one of our episodes when we were putting that out. But now I'm not going to panic on him because, yeah, he did play in the second preseason game here when the Jets rested their starters. Yes, he had 4 carries for 1 yard. Yes, they're saying Carter is still the RB1 as of right now. But I think they played Breece Hall there because he's a rookie. And as a rookie, you want to get these guys any playing experience that they can. You just want to get them on the field, get them live action, get them game snaps. But for me, it's J.K. Dobbins. And yes, he's coming off the injury, but let's not forget that J.K. Dobbins averaged 6 yards a carry in 2020. He was the RB1 on that Baltimore offense. So they might ease him in coming off of the injury, but he averaged 6 yards a carry. I think he had 800 plus yards, just a shade over in his rookie year, 9 touchdowns. And the Baltimore offense just lost Marquise Brown. So they're, as much as they already did lean towards running the ball, they might be throwing it even less. Their offensive targets are really Andrews, Bateman, and then obviously Lamar Jackson's a threat with his legs. But I still think once J.K. Dobbins is back up to speed, he has that RB1 upside where I think this is a great snag in the 4th or 5th round.
Yeah, man, I agree with you 100%. I think J.K. Dobbins is a little underrated right now, a little undervalued. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Lamar Jackson's a running quarterback, and he's gonna take some yards away, and he's gonna take some touchdowns from J.K. But I just can't be sold on Breece Hall right now. I know the talent's there, but with Zach Wilson being hurt right now, and even if you might go week 1, you don't know what you're gonna get. And then let's not forget, Michael Carter's going to get touches. This is not a situation where Breece Hall is the workhorse there for the Jets. And it's not like a situation where this Jets offense is that potent where you can justify taking him in the 4th round. So to me, I think he's really overvalued here. I like JK. No JK, for real. I really like JK a lot. I'm with you on this, man. I think Breece's his ADP is very overvalued right now. All right, that's going to do it for our this or that. Let's move on to Trust, Marry, Kill, which is very similar to this or that. This is where AJ and I give each other 3 options. We have to trust one, which is like, yeah, you're cool. You're in the lineup. Marry one, which is like, you're definitely in the lineup. Set it and forget it. That's the number 1 option. Or kill one, which means you're cut. Forget it. So it's time for Trust, Marry, Kill.
Trust, marry, or kill. Trust one, marry one, kill one. Well, not really kill. You get it.
Whew, man. All right. So if you listen to the show, you know I'm going to marry Courtland Sutton. Love Courtland Sutton this year. I made the prediction that he's going to be a top 10 fantasy football wide receiver. Got to stick with it. Got to marry him. So marry Courtland Sutton. Man, I got to be honest with you. I'm going to trust Brandon Cooks. Very quietly has been a very steady wide receiver in fantasy football. Davis Mills, to me, I think he's solid. I don't think he's blow anyone out the water, but he's obviously the number 1 target there. I think he's gonna be very consistent. I just trust him more. Whereas Marquise Brown, maybe for 5 or 6 weeks you might get some wide receiver 1 production out of him, but when DeAndre Hopkins comes back, who knows? That offense, I say this all the time about the Cardinals. I think I've said this every episode, it feels very random to me. Like, it's hard to predict where the target share is going to go. It just makes me uncomfortable to have any receiver from that offense, even though it is a potent offense. So, marry Courtland Sutton, trust Brandon Cooks, kill Marquise Brown. What do you got?
I'm going to marry Courtland Sutton with you. Everything that we said off of earlier, I don't think we need to dwell on that one anymore. But I'm going to switch up the other 2. I'm going to trust Marquise Brown, and I'm going to have to kill Brandon Cooks. I don't want to. I wouldn't mind having him in my lineup because, like you said, the consistency has been there year over year, where you kind of what you see is what you get. But I just think there's more upside with Brown in that potential Cardinals offense this year. Whereas I'm not sure. I think he has a higher ceiling than Brandon Cooks. Whereas Brandon Cooks might have.
I agree with that.
Brandon Cooks might have the higher floor, but I think Brown has more of that breakout potential, higher ceiling. So for that's the reason that I'm going to marry Sutton, but I'm going to trust Marquise Brown, and I'll kill Brandon Cooks.
All right, next, trust, marry, kill. We're in round 6, round 7. Trust, marry, kill. Darnell Mooney, Gabriel Davis, Rashard Bateman.
This one's tough. These are 3 receivers, and the popular answer is going to be to marry Gabe Davis, given that the Bills' offense is. But I'm going to marry Rashad Bateman.
Ooh.
I think there is a massive amount of targets up for grabs in that Baltimore offense. You're going to see a lot of those go to him. We know Andrews is going to get his share. We know the Ravens run a lot of 2 tight end sets, and this Isaiah Likely guy, who I am the proud, he's rostered by me in both of our dynasty leagues.
Okay, proud owner.
But I'm going to marry Bateman in this one. I do have a keeper league, and I get to select one keeper from last year's roster, and I went with Bateman in the 10th because I think the possibilities are there for him to have a big year. And then I'm going to have to trust Gabe Davis just based off of the offense. He has Josh Allen throwing him the football, so I'm not going to go with Darnell Mooney over him, even though Mooney is the wide receiver 1 in Chicago. I think that Chicago offense is going to be significantly worse than Buffalo's, to say the least. So that leaves Darnell Mooney to kill. Marry Rashad Bateman, trust Gabriel Davis.
So I like all 3 of these receivers, just for the record. I'm going to switch up the top, man. But it's not by a lot. I'm not as high on Gabriel Davis as others are, but I am comfortable enough marrying him in this situation. Obviously, how he ended the season last year raised everybody's eyebrows. That offense is, you can make the argument, is the most potent offense in the league, and Josh Allen's got to throw to somebody, and he has his targets in Dawson Knox and Stephon Diggs, but I think Gabriel Davis, kind of bursted onto the scene last year towards the end, and I think that's going to continue. Rashad Bateman, I like a lot. I think he's going to be solid. I think he's going to be, if he's there in the 6th or 7th round, I would take him. If Gabriel Davis is off the board and there are really no other options there, I would be very comfortable taking him. Darnell Mooney, I like him a lot as a player. Justin Fields just is running for his life back there, and I don't know how consistent that Bears offense is going to be until, he can actually have a pocket to throw from. So, marry Gabriel Davis, trust Rashad Bateman, kill Darnell Mooney. But I like all of them. I think they're all solid choices. All right, let's move on to the next one, AJ. What do you got?
All right, the next one, I'm taking it to around 5-6 running backs, and I feel like I wrote this one down, and it looked like it was going to be way harder of a decision for you, but I feel like, as I get ready to read it, I'm like, Josh is going to be really straightforward with this one, so let's see if we line up here. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Damian Harris, Devin Singletary.
So I'm going to marry CEH off the bat. Wow, look at that face. You didn't think I was going there.
Okay.
You thought I was going to marry Devin Singletary.
I did.
You thought I was married Devin Singletary. CH, man, it seems like he's the lead back there, like infernally. Ronald Jones kind of scared me in the beginning because I think he's a very talented running back, and I think that you could have made the case that he could have overtaken CEH. But the reports coming out of camp are like, he might get cut. So to me, it seems like CEH is going to play a role there. I mean, going into this season, the Chiefs offense has a lot of question marks. I think a constant there is Kelsey, and I think another one is CEH, and they might be running the football a little more. So I'm very comfortable taking CEH. Devin Singletary is someone who I will trust. The Bills running game, I know he can put up numbers. I'm not saying he can't. I do like him in the right circumstance. I would draft him, but their running back situation always kind of, I wouldn't say confused me, but it never really made me comfortable, and that's the reason why I'm leaning more towards CEH. And Damian Harris, I don't even know if he's going to be the starting running back to start the year or throughout the year. So, and again, a Patriots backfield, I'm staying the hell away. Not even playing the guessing games with Bill Belichick. You can keep that, Bill.
All right, I'm with you there on the Damian Harris takes. I'm killing Damian Harris in there. But yeah, I thought you were going to marry Singletary. I mean, you make a good point about the Bills running game, and we talked about how Josh Allen is basically the Bills' first option to rush the ball in when they get to the goal line, or Zach Moss is maybe their goal line back. But Devin Singletary very quietly, had 870 yards and 7 touchdowns on the ground last year.
Did he? See, I didn't even know that.
Right? See, and it's just like it was. When I say quietly, I mean like walking on eggshells across the floor, like not tiptoeing. It was very.
I mean, there was
quiet.
like Zach Moss hype. Like there was like, and then also like they drafted a running back.
I see. I like James Cook too, but I still think Singletary's locked in as the RB1 there, and it's the offense. Okay. But I can't follow you too much for CEH. Like you said, he seems like he's going to be locked in. Rojo doesn't seem like he's going to amount to anything in Kansas City. Like you said, they might cut him, but maybe that speaks to how they really feel about Isaiah Pacheco coming onto the scene, or they still like Jerick McKinnon, what they're going to have in him. But CEH had some
McKinnon, Pacheco, I don't know much about. If it's anyone to me that I think is a threat to CEH, it's Pacheco.
It's definitely not Rojo. I'll tell you that much.
No, it's not Rojo for sure. And McKinnon, to me, we know what McKinnon is at this point.
Yeah.
McKinnon doesn't scare me. Like, you're not going to take CEH's job. You're not. I'm sorry.
I mean, I can understand it. And then it's two great offenses that you're going through. So at least it's a Singletary and a Clyde Edwards-Helaire from, you're not comparing awful offenses, at least. So I think you're kind of might be splitting hairs there a little bit. But for me, I go Singletary. I trust Edwards-Helaire, and then I kill Damian Harris.
All right, and finally, last trust, marry, kill. We're gonna go to round 6 and 7 running backs. AJ, Tony Pollard, Cordell Patterson, or Kenneth Walker.
This one I'm gonna have to marry Tony Pollard, just based off of the fact that I think the Dallas offense is gonna get creative with him, and I think they know what they have, and I do think they involve Zeke heavily here, but I think they can get creative to the point where they're involving Zeke and Pollard. I think we've been saying that for a few episodes. Back on the running back episode, we said it early. You said it earlier in the this or that segment, but I think they can involve Pollard to the point where I'll marry Pollard. I'm going to have to trust Patterson just based off of what he's done and the question mark that is around Kenneth Walker. I'm going to kill Kenneth Walker just because Carroll said, they're going to take as much time as they feel like they need to with him. And I don't feel like Seattle's going to be in a situation where they say we need to get this guy on the field. If he's a little bit banged up, if he's a little bit that, now maybe he's going to have to get on the field sooner or later because it's just a matter of time until Rashad Penny gets hurt. When Rashad Penny has played, he's been sufficient and adequate running back, but they drafted Kenneth Walker to be the guy, and it's just a matter of time until Penny gets hurt. So it's unfortunate timing on the Walker injury that it sounds like he might miss first few weeks of the season, maybe week 1 and 2, maybe he's eased into it by week 3. But just given that situation, I think I have to kill him right here with that. And then I can trust Patterson because I know how the Falcons are going to use him. They're going to involve him throughout that, and then I can marry Pollard. But I think these are all 3 types of similar backs where you look at them and, okay, obviously you don't have any bell cows because these are all 6, 7, 8 ADP guys where that's where you're taking them. So you're not getting a bell cow at that area. So I think they can all be used similarly within their offenses. And I think that's what you're going to see the most out of Pollard. At least what I said about not being bell cows. Kenneth Walker can be a bell cow, but I don't think he's going to be this year.
Whew, man, that
was a lot to take in.
That is a lot to take in. I'm going to marry Kenneth Walker because I think he's going to be a bell cow. That was my whole impression.
This year, you think he's going to be the bell
I think
cow?
Eventually he will be, yeah, I do.
Okay.
I mean, like you said, Pete Carroll said what he said, and then what you said made a lot of sense too, where it's like, why would you rush this guy into a bell cow situation when you're going to be awful this year? It's actually a really good point that I didn't think of until you just said it, so kudos to you. But I still think, he's going to get a heavy workload there. Rashad Penny always gets hurt. You can't predict injuries. I know that, but I think at some point the keys are going to be handed to Walker, and I think he's going to be a bell cow there. I think you're going to be forced to run the football because your quarterbacks are between Drew Lock and Geno Smith. And let's just say you trade for Jimmy G. That just kind of boosts your value anyway because it boosts the offensive value. So I like Kenneth Walker. I would marry him not for week 1, but later down the line where it's like, all right, it's undeniable. He's the bell cow. You're getting 20 touches a game. I'm going to trust Cordell Patterson because to me, he's just a running back. I think that running back wide receiver designation is going to come back because I can't imagine a situation where they don't use him like they used him last year. It doesn't make sense to me. You're just going to put him at running back and run the football with him? No, he's one of your better receivers. I mean, I know you just drafted Drake London and he looks good, but Cordell Patterson is a Swiss Army knife. That's what he's been his whole career, and he found the most success in his career last year with the Falcons doing so. I think it's going to be the same exact thing it was last year. I think by week 3 or week 4, he's going to have the running back wide receiver designation, and you know me and running backs. If I can start 4 running backs, come on. I like it a lot. The only problem is, Falcons suck. So I don't really know what that offense looks like. And I'm going to kill Tony Pollard. I like Tony Pollard, which is very weird me saying this because I have him in a few dynasty leagues. I think he's going to be fine this year. I think he's a solid flex play. But he is behind Zeke. I think he's going to have a few duds there because I think there are going to be a few games where maybe he gets like 8 carries and maybe like 3 or 4 receptions. Doesn't really do much. Whereas I don't really see that happening with Cordell. And then if Kenneth Walker is, getting 20 carries a game, I think he's going to underperform compared to those other 3. So completely different, you and I there.
Yeah, very different. Like I said, I do think Kenneth Walker can be that for Seattle in the future. I just don't think that for that instance, he's really going to be this year, which is if I'm drafting for this year right now, that's how I shake down Pollard, Patterson, Walker. But I do think Walker has the dynasty upside, obviously, over that. But
for sure.
I don't think I'm going to see. I don't think that's what you're going to see from him this year, high off the bat, because that's what I just don't think Seattle's going to force that on him coming a quick recovery off of a hernia surgery.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this week's episode of The Flex. Listen, join the Fantasy Holics Facebook page. Just type in Fantasy Holics in the search bar. Ask us a question. Follow us on Twitter at Fantasy Holics 1. Ask us a question. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Fantasy Holics Podcast. Comment on our assets, DM us, and ask us a question. We will answer it on the next show. We are almost at week 1. We're just a few weeks away. If you have any draft questions, be sure to hit us up. I'm Josh Rodriguez. He's AJ Kelly. Tune in next week. Until then, enjoy the rest of preseason. Peace.